federal default on the country's debt would have severe effects on the economy, as it was demonstrated by the current debt ceiling dispute. These past few weeks, the Senate has decided to raise the debt limit, avoiding a potentially disastrous default after weeks of gridlock and more than 24 hours of delay. Now, we know you're wondering what this would mean for us. And so, for today's video here at Investing Path, we will be discussing more of what will happen to America once the government fails to pay its debts. But before that, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe while you're at it to stay updated for more of our content. But right now, let's get started. This wouldn't be the first time the federal government has reached a stalemate over the debt ceiling, but it would be on a level with the 2008 financial catastrophe, if not worse. The United States has actually been through similar crises before, most notably in 1995, 2011, and 2013. As the ceiling inches closer to $30 trillion, the stakes have never been higher. The simplest solution to the crisis would be for both political parties to agree to lift the debt ceiling. However, there are other proposals to end the impasse, such as the $1 trillion coin, which has gained popularity in recent years. Meanwhile, the whole thing is really a marketing ploy. What is more, Congress needs to demonstrate to the whole world that it can be confident in the United States to honor its financial obligations. Nonetheless, this is a serious proposal that we should take seriously because it can help us virtually escape the political football that is being played with the debt ceiling, as Joe Weisenthal and Paul Krugman have both discussed. Can a $1 trillion coin really put an end to the problem if the United States government does not increase the debt ceiling? U.S. federal debt has risen to approximately $28 trillion by October 2021. The deficit is the difference between what the federal government spends and what it actually collects in taxes each year. In 2020, for instance, federal revenues were reported at $3.4 trillion, but expenditures were above $6.5 trillion. The money for this comes from the sale of bonds to private investors by the government through various financial institutions. If someone spends $1,000 on a bond, they will receive a piece of paper in exchange. The federal government has promised to pay back the initial $1,000 plus interest at a later date. Interest payments are made to the borrower until the loan is paid in full. The amount of money the U.S. Treasury can borrow through bond sales is known as the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling has increased by an ever-increasing factor as the national debt has grown. A cap of $4.37 trillion was placed on the national debt in 1993. The U.S. Senate is expected to pass a bill raising the debt ceiling to around $28.8 trillion for a limited time by October 7, 2021. In the past, legislation requiring any form of borrowing, taxation, or expenditure had to be accompanied by an accompanying permission from Congress. You can imagine how frustrating that was. The amount of money needed to fund a given bill has often been over or underestimated by Congress. However, the procedure has been eased by the establishment of a debt ceiling that grants Treasury sweeping borrowing authority. Once choices are made, the costs associated with them must be accepted. Thus, setting an artificial debt ceiling and causing recurring crises, manufactured crises that actually put our economy and financial system at danger, especially now that we're recuperating from the pandemic in a delicate fashion. In my opinion, this is reckless behavior. Without timely increases in the debt ceiling, the Treasury will be unable to borrow money to meet its financial commitments. The resulting default has the potential to have devastating effects on the economy. It is given that the results would be disastrous. If the United States failed to meet its financial obligations on schedule, it calls into question the assumption that the rest of the world's financial system can safely invest in U.S. Treasuries. The repercussions might be devastating. As we may expect to observe, the stock market and bond market would react. It would be disastrous if the situation persisted for more than a day, and bond investors began to worry that the United States government may default on its interest payments. Reaching a compromise between the two parties is the simplest way out of a debt ceiling impasse. For the first time in decades, both Democrats and Republicans agree to raise the debt ceiling to prevent a default and protect the US economy. However, that isn't the only option available. Budget reconciliation is another method that can be used to increase the debt ceiling. This procedure, which has been around since 1974, is used to speed up the approval of bills like tax increases and debt ceiling increases. Some argue that it is too complicated to put into practice. It seems that they are hesitant to do so, since doing so would require them to commit to a certain increase in the debt ceiling. That is preferred by legislators, in my opinion, because it eliminates the possibility of their political opponents using the figure as a bargaining chip. Debt owed to the United States government in accordance with existing laws is declared to be lawful and immune from challenge. The debt ceiling is set by law and cannot be exceeded. The President can unilaterally alter the text of statutes by referring to the 14th Amendment. That would throw the constitutional system into chaos. Consequently, the US Treasury might strike a platinum trillion-dollar coin and deposit it with the Federal Reserve. And then, the US Treasury would have $1 trillion more in its bank account, which it could use to meet its financial commitments. As to whether or not it will be successful, it will depend on whoever you ask. The United States Treasury Department has no business issuing a platinum coin for $1 trillion. And we don't think it is a major problem that it seems so far-fetched to most people. This is a major issue because the Treasury Department relies on the trust of foreign investors and the American public. Confidence may be severely damaged if it were to appear to be playing weird games. A solution to the impasse in politics. We can have a country run like that. It is not efficient for our modern, complex financial system. That is not the way to reassure other governments and the global economy that we are completely risk-free. This is the wrong approach, but there really aren't any other options. It is an understandable strategy for moving forward. As terrifying as the idea of default may seem, default seems unlikely to me, and we would argue and hope that this is because the debt ceiling is being utilized as a form of conditionless political leverage. However, we may still hold out hope that our political leaders will do the right thing and prevent a default if necessary by having a more serious conversation about taxing and spending than this fear about a debt ceiling would allow. The fact that the United States still has a number of budgetary deadlines that need to be handled before the end of 2021 is maybe the bigger problem. There are crucial legislative matters to consider. Concerning political decision-making, I'm not sure that that's the best way for congressional leaders and lawmakers to consider the regulation at hand. That is a tough job even without adding the stress of planning for a debt ceiling showdown in December. Concerning the agenda, we believe it will make things incredibly tough, even more so than they currently are. If there's one thing that the debt ceiling showdown has shown us, it is that the Congress budgetary drama will continue for years to come, despite the many shutdowns and showdowns that have occurred over the issue. We are not ignorant enough to believe that excellent policy can be made just by having the right people in the room and hashing it out. Our differences are not surface level. Policymakers are supposed to represent us, but we disagree with the direction the country is heading in. Moreover, what are your thoughts about this one? Is the current government debt something we should be worried about or not? Let us know what you think in the comment section below, and we'd be more than glad to join in the conversation. This is Investing Path, and if you found this video quite helpful to you, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and hit the bell button to stay updated for more of our featured content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.